Right, so this is the CICD UX call for July 14th. Every time I'm amazed that it's already so further down. Let's see what we have here today. A couple of FYIs. I think we all seen that. I was a bit surprised. We have Friends and Family Day this Friday. Feels like again it's another Friends and Family Day coming. I think you've already scheduled that in your calendars. If you haven't, please do so. And of course, you're always welcome to push it to a different day of the week. So remember that as well if you don't want to have this Friday off. And a couple of announcements from my side. We now require formal tracking of manager approval for learning and development opportunities. So that includes conferences, workshops, professional memberships for online trainings, etc. So I linked here the merge request. Please review it. If you have any questions, bring it to me during your one-on-ones or async. I also have to get up to speed with this process, but pretty much you're gonna need not only the verbal approval, but the written approval from me before you apply or pay for any trainings now. Yeah. And let's see. And this topic about Gina. So I see some answers already, but I'm gonna voice here in case Gina watches this call later on. So now Gina is our only member uh, in the Americas. She's going to Boston, and I think now it's like 4 in the morning for her. My question is here is what do we want to do with these meetings? It would be nice for her, especially in the beginning, to have a sync call with all of us to get that sense of a team being part of the design group, etc. But I wanted to know from you um, your ideas. I thought here maybe we could either extend this call a bit later in the day, so it would be late for Nadia and Vitika, but early for Gina, or we just rotate the call if we want to scale, have it a synchronous meeting. I haven't thought about async yet, and when I see that your comments are on that, so if you want to voice, Nadia, I think you're first.
Yeah, I'm always against like having anyone wake up early or late unless it's like an emergency or like a one-off thing. You know, I definitely wouldn't want to schedule a recurring meeting that we know is outside of working hours for someone from our team. And the way we address it on the pipeline authoring team, for example, is we have a rotation. So sometimes we have at this time, sometimes we have at that time, and some people are able to join both, but we also make sure to share the recordings and things like that for others. So I think rotating would be great. And then we can also like double down on async participation in the meetings. So like we have async participation meetings at GitLab, and we could maybe get better at making sure that even if you don't join the meeting, that you add some like talking points, something to share, or record a video ahead of time. Like there are many things that we could kind of try out and see if it helps us stay more in touch without like, scheduling something at an inconvenient time.
Yeah, I like that idea of us being more prepared to these calls and add things to the agenda. Any type of assets right ahead of time. What my only concern about generating a video is that we're gonna have yet another commitment to create a recording, and I don't want to make that the rule of everyone has to record something once a week or every 2 weeks about what we're doing. I think if we're able to have it a free form, and if you want to record something, that's fine, but make sure that we add things ahead of time, and whoever is able to join, we discuss and go over. I think even for us to keep working on this format, my experience with GitLab is that asking people to record things at some point is going to stop because we're all too busy. But that's my opinion. That's why I would like us to have some still face-to-face contact. But Daniel, I know that you wrote your comments as well.
Yeah, no, I want to echo Nadia's suggestion. I think async is definitely having a rotation, and 1 week some part of the team is async, and the other part is async is the better way. um I like recording stuff, so for me it would be fine. The release group has the same rotation because we're also across many time zones, but our weekly meetings are not recorded. So for me, I participate async, I add stuff in the agenda, but it's kind of hard. Like, sure, I can see what was discussed, but it's not the same thing as being part of the meeting. So I'm actually excited to be able to record a video, then like my video is played as part of the meeting, and then afterwards I can watch everything, and it's almost like I've been there. So yeah. But I understand, like, if you can that week, it's fine. Just add to the agenda. Don't record anything.
Right. Okay, so let's do that. Let's keep as is, and we can try to rotate a couple of times. I think Nadia, you are going to come back to Europe, right, at some point. So we're gonna have to
Mhm.
either have the discussion again or try out this format, um, and see what time of the day we're gonna have to reschedule this call to adapt, not only to Vitica but also a little bit maybe later in the day, just to give an idea of how that would look like. But let's talk about that when the time comes, and I'll write this down in Slack so that Vitica and Gina can also be on top. And of course, we're hiring someone else for package, and we don't know where the person is going to be. So let's see. Let's try out this format. So yeah, thanks for your input. Awesome. And then now we're over to stage group updates. Daniel, you're first.
Yes. So before I start, I added right after at the FYI for the Friends and Family Day. I'll be out of office tomorrow. I was gonna actually schedule my out of office for Friday, but then I thought, you know what? Friday is such a calm day. I'll schedule it for Thursday. And then 3 days later, I figure out Friday was a Friends and Family Day. So like, yes, jackpot! Really long weekend. But yeah, with that out of the way, so the big thing that is coming up on 14.2 for us in release is a bigger redesign of the environments page, the table component, which is essentially the whole page. So I'll quickly share my screen to go over some of it. Let me see here. Yeah, but this was a nice process, because essentially this is the culmination of working in a lot of smaller issues for the environments page and the table, and over time realizing that a lot of them were either unfixable because of the state the page is at, or just like less relevant compared to a bigger redesign, right? So here we can already see stuff that is broken in the page due to like the content just not fitting the size anymore. And for us this meant that we have to move away from this format of the table, because we already need to add more fields to it, but there's currently no more space. Another issue that corroborated this was this issue that I just worked on, this one. So essentially to improve the stop button on the environments page, because it really gives no good feedback. And then the result of improving this button is that it breaks the page even further, right? So adding a label here meant that we would introduce a regression on certain viewports. Where is it? Yeah, here it is. Right. So on one hand, we're fixing something, but we're also breaking it, and we would have to add an exception the code to make it work. But then any day that we added one extra button, it would break again, right? So it's more proof that really we need to take a step back and rethink this. And the team was very supportive. Everyone's like, yeah, for sure, it definitely needs to be redesigned. So I was happy to start with smaller iterations, but then build the trust with the team and build the understanding that yes, we need to take a step back and really redesign this from the bottom up. So that's what I'm gonna be working on 14.2. Uh, one of the one of the first steps I took, I think I already shared here, but was the mapping of the objects for environments. There's an MR to add this to pajamas. And then the next step is essentially the next step that's already on pajamas. So if we go merge request, the same work that Pedro did to map the merge request and later on map the layouts. That's more or less what I'm gonna do in environments. I think not as complete, because merge request is much more complex, and it's a higher stakes area, but just mapping out like what is everything we have in that table right now, and then how we can restructure it in a way that is more scalable and lets us add more features and more information in the future. So that's what's coming up in 14.2. It's essentially the whole milestone. I'm really excited to have this big chunk of design. Other than that, I shared late last week and early this week this little project with, like, it's how I do these things with Alfred. I had mentioned this to Hayana a long time ago, just like, yes, make a blog post, make a video. So finally made a video out of it. It's on YouTube. I plan on adding this to the handbook as well, because some of this information could definitely go back there, and maybe also creating a blog post, but I'm not sure what is our current status for design blog posts. So let me know, and when I know that, I'll definitely write a post for that.
Yeah, quick parenthesis there, Daniel. Did you have a chance to look into that blog post, the technical part of it? Because I haven't looked back since I came back from my PTO.
Oh no, that slipped my mind. I haven't, but I can definitely take a look, because we needed to add the category, right, for
Yeah,
UX design on
yeah.
the blog.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what I heard from marketing was that they want us to have at least 5 blog posts by the UX team, by the UX department, released per, I don't know if it's monthly or every 2 months. There's a time box, but we have that. So what I need to do is get back to the marketing folks and show the data saying that we do publish posts like monthly
Yep.
to kind of justify having a category, and then I'll ping you again once those conversations start over. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think it's necessary for us to have some sort of process, just like we have the KRs, like each group writes one blog post per quarter or something like that, or we have enough organic
I would say we
posts
have
to...
enough organic, and that's also what I see from Christy. So she messaged me just showing some of the data. So I'm gonna look into it again and just format a little bit that for us. But I wouldn't be concerned about that, especially if Vitika writes a post every month, and
Yeah, she's
Pedro as
intense.
well. Yeah, so I wouldn't be concerned. But I'll ping you
Yeah,
on that comment if you're interested. So.
cool. And then lastly, it's something else I've been playing with, but I imported this view package that is essentially a like live editor on the browser. So we can play around with like Danger, perhaps. Yeah. So you can play around and just create whatever layout you want with our design system components. The goal for this is to I'm gonna open an issue and an MR with Pajama's team to have this integrated into our documentation, and then I think the jump that makes this really useful is this example from Alt Zero, where you can actually share the code snippet. So it adds all the code you wrote into the URL, so you can very quickly like do some quick prototype or some pair programming with an engineer, and then you generate a code sample that you can share with other people, and when they open it, it shows exactly the code that you had there. I had this in a previous job. I built it for React, and it was super useful to just sit down and very quickly prototype something. So I'm happy that I made it work with Vue.js. So we'll share this with the team.
This is awesome. We'll never have to prototype again. I'm sorry, Figma. If we have this, I'll never, I'll never open a
It's really
prototype
nice,
tool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because once you have all the components, you can just copy paste everything and just quickly build up a layout. So it's a nice way to play around.
This is super cool, Daniel. Have you been working or collaborating with the foundations folks on this, or is just your side project?
So I think I started this like this Sunday maybe, and it was completely broken until like 1 hour ago, and then I copy pasted some random configuration and it worked. Like yay, I'm able to share it because it was working only on my machine. This is on GitLab pages, but then I added something and made it work. So I'm gonna share it with them today and see where it goes.
This is super cool. I would say if you don't have an issue open for this yet, and like keep track of it and get more people to contribute, I would say do so,
Yeah.
because this is really next level for us in terms of how we can use pajamas not only as this static source of truth, right? But yeah, a prototyping tool for us for design. So broadcast that, please.
Yeah, we'll do for sure.
Yeah, this is really cool. I think it can also be a great learning tool. I personally don't feel super comfortable making changes to the components, and like I can do some small things, but I think using this could really help just learn different parts of the components and how do you modify them, because
Yep.
when you look at the whole layout, right, it's very like intimidating. There's a lot of stuff there when you're looking at a whole page. Here you can start looking into exactly what does one component look like, how can I manipulate it, like what is possible. So yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I made this partially for the same reason, because I could see the components, the documentation, but I had very little visibility on like how exactly to like play with them and change the properties and values. So glad to hear you find it useful. We'll share it with the team.
That's awesome. I think especially for my workflow and the way I work today, where I don't prototype as much, but I still need to communicate the UI, I would use this rather than, yeah. And if we could embed, for example, anything like a working prototype in the issues, or have a link to something, that it's whatever, just hosted in any environment, this would be perfect. This is
Yeah.
really, to me, next level design management.
And it's fully functional already. Like it looks ugly, but it has all the components important. So you can use any components and just add values. Like it's a full Vue.js window, so you can treat it as a Vue.js file and use every component we have.
So Nadia, you're up next.
Yeah, so I will share an update on the visionary mockups for CI onboarding. So for the past couple milestones, Dove and I have been really diving deep into research around different areas. Like we've wrapped up the CMS study, where we mostly looked at the pipeline editor and like how do you get started building a pipeline. Um, well, not only pipeline editor, a lot of participants use their local editor actually, but that experience we learned a lot about, and also learned a lot about how do you use CI templates, and like how do different teams collaborate on CI templates, how do they create template libraries, how do they onboard developers onto their CI/CD practices. So based on all of this information, I've been creating these mockups. So I'll share my screen. So the idea here is to have an onboarding experience that uses the templates, like relies mostly on the templates, but by surfacing additional metadata about the templates and sorting the templates into appropriate categories, we can make it much easier for you to actually find a template that will allow you to get started very quickly. And another thing is we will allow organizations to create their own template libraries, and those will need to be surfaced in CI onboarding. So when a developer, like for this mockup that you're seeing, this is like a developer onboarding, let's say they've just joined the company and they're joined the project, and they need to create a pipeline for that project, but they need to use the templates that the organization created, because for compliance reasons and just to enable like consistent CI/CD practices, they need to distribute those specific templates. So we would detect your repo language and we would recommend a template that is from that custom library, and we will be like, hey, you have a Go project, here's a Go template that your company created, use that. And then also we want to introduce additional capabilities for browsing the templates. We will have organizational workflows. So like these are the custom workflows, GitLab workflows, and maybe community workflows as well. And you would be able to filter them using filtered search. This is visionary, so just keep that in mind. I don't know if it's going to end up looking this way, but this is the idea, and Dove was really on board with this as well. So this is still work in progress. But the idea here is that from what I learned from UX research around CI templates, people like how they they separate templates into so many different categories. Like one template can be about deployment, it can be about a specific language, it can be about like a specific technology. Are you deploying to AWS, or are you deploying like to Kubernetes? All kinds of things, like what kind of tests you want to be doing. So when you're searching for something that can help you create your workflow, you're thinking something like, okay, so I have a Go project and I want to deploy to AWS, and I also want to do like those specific tests, or like I want to test X, Y, Z. And we could use filtered search if we had tags for those different things. So the idea is to create, allow you to create tags associated with templates, and we will create those tags for GitLab maintained templates. So you would be able to have like this really granular search control. You would be able to search for exactly what you need, and we will recommend you a template. And then also looking into some UI polish for the pipeline editor. I will be collaborating on with the editor team on that as well. Like the dream Dove and I have is that someone who uses VS Code on the day-to-day, when they switch to the pipeline editor, they don't feel pain. Because like it's such a feature-rich editor, is great, has great UX, looks good, lots of plugins, and everyone customizes their editor just like it's like their baby. You know, developers get really attached to their editor of choice. And so we need to make the pipeline editor good, and we also need to make sure that it's kind of in line with what we have in the Web IDE. So we'll be collaborating on like creating one single way to commit in GitLab, for example, because right now we have different patterns for committing in the Web IDE and in the single file editor, for instance. And now we have the pipeline editor, which would be like a whole new thing. So we will need to align on some things there. Yeah, and also we're planning to allow you to customize the content in the sidebar. So if you have an organization with their own custom CI/CD practices, they would be able to set it up maybe in CI/CD settings at the group level and be like, hey, this is how you're supposed to set up your pipeline according to our standards. Use this template, include this, do that. And yeah, so you can just kind of follow the steps. Maybe we could even have like interactive checklist in the sidebar so you can actually check things off. That would also be cool. So yeah, we're looking into things like that. And when you use the templates inside the pipeline editor, we would separate them into two buckets: workflow templates, which are like end-to-end pipeline templates that you use kind of as a backbone when you get started with a pipeline, and then workflow extensions, which are all of the YAML pieces that you would use with an include or extend keyword and so on. So these can be jobs or can be like mini workflows that kind of provide like specific functionality. So when you click on add workflow extension, you would see something like this, let's say. So these are like GitLab extensions. So for example, the SAS scan, it's an extension. You're meant to use it with an include. And also you would be able to use the filter search here as well. Yeah, so this is really exciting because I think we've gathered so many insights that we're really starting to get more clarity around where we need to be heading. And these mockups we will be using to facilitate the discussion across GitLab and with our customers, maybe with the sales team, GitLab users. Like once we have the mockups, we'll figure out exactly how we're going to communicate it, because I think we'll need to be strategic about it, because there's also Shinya is working on the big proposal for overhauling everything about the templates, and it's really good. And for the most part, we're aligned, but we need to make sure we have like leverage to lead this feature development from the place of user research and the insights that we've been gathering and what the customers need. Because so far it's been really like dominated by the engineering, the whole conversation about it. So hopefully the mockups will allow us to like communicate the vision in a more clear, cohesive way so we can move things forward. And the plan is that in 14.2, we will be having discussions around these mockups, like hashing things out, figuring out if there's any gaps that we haven't considered. And then we want to see if we can define the MVC steps to start the development in 14.3 to start taking steps in this direction.
Nadia, I have a question, not in terms of the flows or anything related to the vision, but when I look at it, I see some things that don't look like pajamas, and I just wanted to know if you're also like creating new pieces of UI or changing components, or you're trying to use everything that you have today in your visionary mockups.
Well, these are visionaries, so I kind of decided that it doesn't really matter at this stage, because the idea is to communicate the functionality and the underlying like UX and even like information architecture, because that's kind of the main blocker. We need to figure out how the templates will work. So I foresee that the UI will be reworked quite a bit. So the things here that do not comply with pajamas, I guess it's the editor layout, but it's also like not in the pajamas. We have so many different editors, like everything in the editor is custom, like in the web ID, also their navigation and everything, it's one of a kind. So in other words, this is something that I will be considering, and we will definitely do our best to reuse things that are already available in the product. And if not, we will have to also look for ways to align it. So I think a lot of work will have to be done for aligning the editor UI with the editor team and web ID specifically, because what we see is that pipeline editor is already used the most for pipeline configuration among all different editors that we have in GitLab. Like the majority of people who use a web editor for pipeline editing, they use the pipeline editor already. However, WebID is well loved by GitLab users as a whole. Like it's a pretty good editor. So if we need to come into alignment a bit more with the WebID, I think we would be doing that as well. But at this point, like, again, this is just to set the vector for discussions. And I think this will really shift. The UI will keep shifting as we have these conversations.
Yeah, I think it'll also be a good opportunity to do something that's similar to what Daniel is going to do for environments, add to pajamas, like to the objects, right, area, because it's such a complex, yeah, just a complex UI. You have so much that can be customized, that needs to be, like what you say, aligned with other product areas. So that could also be part of, I think I already mentioned that, of your vision, right? How do we reuse that? Awesome. Thanks for answering.
So my quick comments on it. Love this, Nadia. I think it makes a lot of sense in terms of pipelines being the glue that ties everything together on GitLab. So I could see this becoming not just an onboarding to how to get started with a pipeline for your project, but how to get started with your project period, and really being one of the big gateways to start using GitLab as either as an individual developer or as a team or as an organization. So very excited with this, and I needed this like 3 days ago when I started this pajamas playground, because I needed to find a way to host a Vue.js app in GitLab pages, and like I Googled 5 different versions, and ironically the version I found was hosted on GitHub. Uh, even though it was specifically like how to host Vue.js and GitLab pages, and it was on GitHub. So I don't know, maybe helping people set up a mirror for that kind of thing. But I think, yeah, in terms of community, this is something that will definitely draw people into GitLab, because it's a direct benefit to hosting your repositories for pipelines there. So really excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, thanks. We're also going to collaborate probably with the configure team around Auto DevOps, because the vision that they have for Auto DevOps is quite similar. It seems like we're starting to move in the same direction, using CI and Auto DevOps to enable GitLab features and to aid DevOps adoption, because in the end, that's our goal. Like as a platform, we need to increase stage adoption, and CI onboarding and Auto DevOps could both really help with that. It's just kind of like two different flavors of doing the same thing. Auto DevOps would be this automatic way. But yeah, I think it will take us a few milestones to just like really figure out the roadmap for this and hash things out. We will be doing solution validation as well, so it will take some time.
Yeah, let's definitely collaborate on this, because I also want to be closer to the configure team, since it makes sense for us to work together. Another question I from something that was in the mockup, within the pipeline editor, the commit button, do you have any plans to find ways to make this feedback loop faster? Because that's something else I saw. I was working locally on my pipeline, but I had to like keep making commits and pushing like 5, 6, 7, 8 times until my pipeline was ready. I guess using the the pipeline editor on the web would make it a bit faster. But even so, like since I'm already within GitLab, it could be nice to have a way to like not commit the pipeline, because it's just a draft that I'm running until it's working, right? So finding a way to just save in, see if it works, change, save, see if it works, and then when it's actually working, I make a commit, because otherwise all of those like 5 commits I made, they're just like taking up space.
Yeah, we have an issue around it. Or do we? Maybe I just created it in my head, but basically I uncovered the related insight in research that I'm currently analyzing. So probably there's no issue yet, but it's on my to-do list. We want to allow you to test your pipeline before committing. There's been lots of discussions around it, like for like half a year. Every time we talk to Michael, he talks about it, and we heard it from developers as well, DevOps engineers, especially those who are creating really complex pipelines. Like you don't want to sit down and write your gigantic 100-job pipeline in one sitting. It doesn't happen this way. You're going to iterate on it. So you want to test it somehow locally. The thing is, it's just difficult technically to figure this out, and it would be a huge undertaking for us to take it on, but we're starting to explore these ideas. We just have like lots of other things kind of that are high priority right now, but we'll be looking into this. And to take this further, we were also discussing making testing possible in different contexts. So it's not enough to allow you to test your pipeline just on the default branch, or like if you have a complex pipeline, the YAML that you have is not necessarily the pipeline that runs, because you have all kinds of different conditions. Like, is the merge request pipeline, is it based on changes to this one particular file, or maybe you want to test your pipeline on a specific branch, because that matters as well. So that's the vision, but it's really far out, because as you see, we don't even have an issue yet.
You have it in your head. So that's
Yeah,
all right. That's 50%.
it's all in my and Dove's head, so I think we'll be fine.
We have another 10 minutes. You still have some items, right, Nadia?
Yeah, I just added this little screenshot. So for these mockups, Dove and I really wanted to highlight exactly those technologies and features and templates that are used the most, just to make it more exciting. So turns out we're tracking this. So in the screenshot that I added, you see the top templates that are used as includes. So you see that at the very top we have Auto DevOps, AWS deployments, security scans, SAST is there, secret detection is there. So these are all GitLab features that are enabled with those templates, and they're the top used templates. So people use GitLab to enable GitLab features. It's just the UX is horrible. We basically don't provide any guidance at all. They're just buried there in the repo with all of those other templates with not even description. So that also, like, I think it's an indication that if we create a really good user experience around CI onboarding and really show the value of what those templates do, because we're not giving the user a template, we're giving them a feature. So we need to communicate the value and what job this thing will solve for them, rather than being like, here's a CI template that has like all of those jobs that you don't, maybe you don't even understand the CI syntax at that point, but you could still take advantage of what it can do for you. So and also, I haven't edited the agenda, why? But we also found some insights around what templates are used the most as part of the onboarding. So like the workflow templates, and it's what you would expect to see. The hello world template is by far used the most. Hold on, I will pull up a screenshot. So it also proves our hunch that we need to provide something super easy for you to quickly get started, because when you hear about GitLab CI, you don't sit down and learn syntax for 3 days and write your 100-job pipeline. What you want is you want to just like see how it works. What is the UI like? What can it do? Are there any weird things that you would make you like not want to use it? So hold on, I will copy this real quick into the agenda. I'll just put it under this screenshot that I've already, oh, wrong thing. Okay, there you go. Yeah, so you see that hello world is at the very top, and it's like 3 times, more than 3 times more used than the next one, which is Docker, and then Node.js and Python. So like either you use hello world or you just select a template that matches your language.
It is crazy how much more used the hello world is compared to, well, anything else. Yeah.
Actually, I think this data might be a bit skewed, probably. I just thought about it by the experiment that we've been running with the growth team, because there was an experiment for an empty state with the hello world highlighted, but still, actually, I mean, it still proves the same point that people use hello world, because there were other templates there in the empty state as well. Even though hello world was highlighted as, hey, this, it was like a standalone option, but most people went with it. So yeah, we've had really great results with this experiment.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Nadia. I'll power through the next couple of items. Vita is out of office today, but I added here some of the things I know that she's doing. She's helping me out with testing, research for testing on product quality dashboard. And I know that the discussion guide is ready, and that Vitka and James will start interviews soon. We'll start looking for participants for this interview. And Vitka is, of course, going to be Gina's onboarding buddy. So if you haven't met Gina yet, do so, schedule a call. Vitka is the official buddy, but we all should be connecting and helping her out on board GitLab. And for me, testing and running, I'll be prepping a UX transition issue for Gina in the upcoming week. So I'm really hoping that she'll focus on the GitLab onboarding. Daniel went through it recently, you know, how long and time consuming that can be. And also start the UX onboarding next week and do that painful task of setting up auto DevOps and deploying an application. And for her specifically, I asked her to write some testing pipelines and, you know, configure her runner so that she understands a little bit about the product, user documentation, etc. So getting up to speed with the operation side of GitLab. And after that, I'll transition the testing and runner UX work to her. In the meantime, for testing, I'll be working with the Create team to coordinate the MR widgets framework for testing. So this is part of the KR that we're working or they're working on Q2 to define the standards, define what needs to be updated in the UI. So at this point, it's not planning and implementation, but looking at how that would change or updates the components or the testing widgets in the merge request. And then Gina would be the DRI once she fully onboards testing runner. So that probably should be one of her first tasks, getting up to speed with that so that she can support the usability problems, usability improvements in testing. And the next update on my side is on package. So I think I mentioned this in the beginning, not sure, but we're going to be moving forward with one of the candidates for testing this week. So fingers crossed, everything goes well. We should have someone joining soon, and then our team will be complete again. And more information will follow. Let you know. We have 2 minutes. Anything else you want to add? Anything fun, resources, book tutorials, conferences, articles, or anything else?
I forgot to mention on the release group, we are hiring for a product manager. I was part of some of the interviews with our engineering manager, Nicole, and we are moving forward with one candidate. So hopefully we'll have a full-time PM on the team. So happy about that as well.
This is awesome. And I know that VTK is also part of the interview panel for the pipeline execution PM. So hopefully we're going to have a new GitLab team member
Yes.
in this quarter. So fingers crossed, right? So we made it. 1 minute to spare. Hope you enjoy your day. I'll see you later.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you both. Bye.